This is the story of a bear hunt by the four Goodloe brothers, Winter, David, James, and Richard. This story is written by James Lockhart Goodloe and appeared in Forest and Stream magazine in January 1917, shortly before Colonel Goodloe died, colonel in his case being an honorary title. The mother of the Goodloe brothers, by the way, was a member of the Winter family, from which Governor William Winter, former governor of the state of Mississippi, is descended. If you find these readings worthwhile, please do like, comment, subscribe, and share these readings. Thank you. My First Bear Hunt by Colonel James Lockhart Goodloe. Although I have grown old enough to shrink from the taking of most of God's creatures, my thoughts often revert to the exciting times in the Mississippi Valley when I was a lad. In those days the woods were full of game and the streams with fish. In the winter of 1860 there was only one landing of any importance on the Big Sunflower River, from its mouth on the Yazoo to its headwaters in North Mississippi. This was at Holland's Landing, 3 miles from Deer Creek, and a very rough wagon road led to the creek, touching it 8 miles north from Rolling Fork. The cane brake on the east side of Deer Creek extended from the Yazoo nearly to Greenville, broken only by an occasional plantation. This brake was from 1 to 3 or 4 miles wide, and here and on the streams was a hunter's paradise. The game consisted of bear, deer, panther, wolves, foxes, wildcat, turkeys, swans, duck, geese, but no quails. In the autumn of 1860, Winter Goodloe, my eldest brother, had cut a trail from the Holland Landing Road for 6 miles northwardly through the center of the cane brake, and another beginning 3 miles north of that road and running east for 2 miles through the brake. This was preparatory for the last meeting of 4 brothers of us for a hunting frolic at our place, Greatland, on Deer Creek. Charles Shackelford, Jr. of Canton and John Cameron of Deer Creek were there. We met before daybreak in December 1860. King, who was master of the hounds, had taken 15 hounds and half-breeds to the south end of the long trail, beginning at the road above mentioned, and was to put the pack in at daybreak. Meantime we rode to the northern cross trail. Winter placed me near the clearing and strung the other boys out upon it at intervals of about 200 yards, so that we might intercept the bear when pursued by King and his pack. We were posted at daylight, and the sun was just rising when I heard the distant horn-like note of old Rip, who with Rob, Betty, and Callie were of the famous Harry Hill strain of deer or bear hounds, and were almost infallible on the scent. The 2 first were tall, strong, heavy-jointed dogs, strong-breasted and reliable. Usually they were the leaders, in whom the pack had entire confidence. They were slow but sure. There were 4 or 5 other thoroughbred hounds and a lot of half-breeds used for overhauling and stopping the game. Of these, old Sut Lovingood was the most famous. He bayed like the halloo of a strong-lunged giant, and was fearless and expert in nipping the legs of the game. I had never seen a wild bear, and that is why Winter had posted me at a point where a bear had never been known to run when chased by the hounds. They invariably seek the dense cane when pursued, although they usually tack and come back, but keep within the heavy cane. Old Rip's bugle call came from a point half a mile south from me, and sounded as if he was on a cold trail, but it was almost enough to make my hair knock my cap from my head. For a while there was no repetition. I heard an occasional yelp from the half-breeds as they seemed to move nearer to the clearing. Then I moved as fast as I could over the cane stubble where it had been cut off toward the field. As I hurried around an immense gum tree which obstructed the trail, a thing, seemingly as large as an ox, rose up within a few feet of me, standing on its hind legs with mouth open. We had loaned other guns to our guests, and I had only a 10-bore single-barreled shotgun, muzzle loader, charged with a heavy load of DuPont black powder, an ounce ball, and 3 buckshot. In a real buck ague and in terror, I fired full in the face of the beast, which fell dead as I turned to get out of the way. At the crack of my gun, the pack came tearing through the cane and opening in full cry as they found a hot trail. What a holiday racket they made as they covered the fearful animal which had fallen to my aim. The little 6-month-old crowd, who was, like myself, on his first legs, sounded his bugle note several hundred yards to the north. The elder and experienced dogs pricked up their ears, but appeared not to credit the young son of Rip and Betty. I urged them out, however, and followed in the wake. The little crowd had not lied. The uproar was fearful to my unaccustomed ears, but enthused of my first chase, and sustained by success, I followed as fast as the cane would permit, yelling like a painter. Soon I heard the struggle and came up to the whole pack, covering a 200-pounder, a 2-year-old bear. Now here was my opportunity for more glory. I hauled out my heavy knife, about a foot long and sharp on both edges, made by our blacksmith, pushed the dogs aside, and kneeled to stick the struggling bear to the heart, which, you know, and I had been told, lies down the left side below the ribs. When I got in, the dogs evidently thought I had him and loosed their holds. The powerful youngster immediately raised up and made at me. I fell back on him and gave him my boot heel, which he seized and began to rip my kip boot legs with his hind claws, but the dogs immediately seized him as I did more yelling than ever. I finished the young fellow while they held on, and I feel sorry for it to this day. Tying the cord which we always had around our waists under his lower front teeth, I dragged him slowly to where his mother was lying. It was a hard job, and before I got there, the beautiful and now famous little crowd again broke the welkin with the sweetest note that hunter ever heard. The pack had now learned to respect the call of this young Napoleon, and soon had another 2-year-old on his back, and I ruthlessly committed another murder, but it was not in cold blood. Hauling this one also to where the others lay dead, I sounded the death call on my big horn over 900 pounds of prime bear meat. It was a long time before I heard my companions answering my notes. The sun was well up, and so was the jig of a further hunt. I had moved away from the battlefield toward the east, and sat down on a log. If I had then used tobacco, I suppose I would have lighted a pipe. Then Winter came along at the head of the train. He was smoking and glum, and thus addressed me. "Well, I guess you have spoiled this hunt, killing bobcats." I did not disabuse his mind of its error as he passed by me on the way to our horses and home. All at once he halted, threw up his arms, and shouted like a stentor, "Jerusalem!" After that he assigned me to better stands in the chase. We had a gala time of it during that season, but parted to go to war, and never met together again. David Goodloe, by the way, died from wounds he received at the Battle of Gettysburg, and Richard Goodloe died from wounds he received at the Battle of Murfreesboro in Tennessee. Winter Goodloe settled in Austin, Texas after the war. He made the news when he died in 1913 because he had handwritten his will on the back of his University of North Carolina college diploma. Colonel James Lockhart Goodloe, who authored this article, was a prominent lawyer in Memphis, Tennessee, until his death in 1917. Please do remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.